Digest Show, Demystifying Science.
Yeah, I'm Farouk Elbaz. I was born in Egypt in a town called Zagadzik, and I was educated also in Egypt with a BS in chemistry and geology. So I started looking at all kinds of things, and here is an ad for NASA that wanted some geologists to work on the geology of the moon, and they applied and they got accepted.
How did you persuade them to accept you?
When I first was accepted to be talking something to the astronauts, was with the Ken Mattingly, one of the astronauts, and he was assigned already to Apollo 13 later, after Apollo 11 and 12, so he was to be a 13, but he was back up on 11. And then he told me, okay, I will give you 1 hour to prove that what you say is of some value to any of us. I said, okay. So I went before he said, I ran in I will be in the Cape, it's in Florida, Cape Canaveral, and I will do my running for 1 hour between 5 and 6. And they take a shower, and then between 6 and 7 is the time I'm giving you. Because 7, I'm gonna go for dinner. I said, okay, here it is. So I went 2 hours beforehand, and I went to the place where he told me to be, and they put all of the lunar pictures on the walls of the whole room, big sheets, 24-inch prints of the thing, to show exactly what we think the first 3 orbits of the spacecraft are going to be, in different colors, red, green, and yellow. So the first orbit, second, and third. And here it is, will be the 3 orbits where they will ask him from Houston to look at certain landmarks and to see whether he can see through the telescope any of them. They give him 7, and they want at least 3. It would be great if I can get 5. So I thought, okay, let's teach him where these 7 might be, what it is. And I put the 7, and they said, now tell me, I didn't say a thing about it. I told them, tell me, what do you see here from me? I said, well, before we get there is 2 craters locked up by themselves over, like a doublet. I said, you're great. And I write a doublet in black ink on this feature, because that's what he said, which means that's what he would remember. It is a doublet, and right before he gets to that one little thing, and that is the landmark. And then he will go to the next one and say, look at that pattern of craters, that make the head of this one. That looks like a snowman. I say, great, I write snowman. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that becomes the name. Never mind what the real names are, that becomes snowman. That's it. It's stick with it. And whatever it is in that, and back and forth for me, for like 50 minutes, going over one by one, all the 7 features, the 7 landmarks, one by one for him to remember. And this, I told them that this is what my orbital training is. So at the end, he said, I sat down with him, and I said, close your eyes, stay away from the pictures, and tell me, with first orbit, you're gonna go over landmark 1. What is that landmark 1? He said, what? I said, what did you say about landmark 1? He said, 1 was that what we called it a doublet? I said, yes. He said, oh, okay. So the landmark would be after in that little corner will be the tiny little crater, which I would mark. I said, good. 1 to second. That's it. Anyway, I made him repeat exactly what he wanted to do, this and that. So he thought that was really something great, because it will make him figure out where these landmarks, as many of these landmarks as possible, which means that it will make assign exactly where the orbit of the spacecraft is, which would make him a better pilot than anybody else. So he loved that plan. And he said he was delighted with it. As soon as I finished and I was leaving, he said, we're going to have dinner. Why don't you stay with us for dinner? So I stayed. Then became kind of friendly. And before I left, the next time he called me, hey, Farouk, when can you come back? At the end of it. which means that that's it. What I'm gonna give him, he will feel will make him a better pilot or a better astronaut or a better lunar visitor, and therefore I am of value to him. And then I became a friend, and then from then on, one by one, I just moved on one by one, telling them exactly what we need and all of the places that we need to take pictures of and why, and they absorbed it all because they felt that they are doing something super fantastic from their own point of view to become better pilots because they are better astronauts, and therefore they really became very enthralled with and delighted with all of the what I call orbital training, meaning I will train you to see things while you are in lunar orbit, even before anybody lands. So you'll see a great deal of the moon with all of those things that you can see from the window of the spacecraft.
What do you remember about Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins?
Yes, indeed. And they, of course, they were the first, and they did not appreciate, for good reason, the scientific training as much, because they said there is enough of all kinds of other things that we don't know what in the hell is going to happen during the mission. And so never mind the science and never mind just tell us where in the hell. And my parents would tell me, Farouk, why don't you just mark what you need and on a map, and they'll give you every goddamn picture you ask for. And just don't tell me what it is, just tell me where am I going to point the camera, and they'll get you all that you need to know. So from the outset, they knew that they're going to have limited time. They are the first to try, and they're not going to have that much time to think about it or to pontificate, and therefore maybe not. Although they actually sat down and listened to us. So they learned a great deal. And because we never knew that whether this is going to be the first mission or the last mission. Because if the astronauts die, maybe the whole program would be defunct or be stopped. So we didn't really know. And so we assigned them to all kinds of things that they would do, so that hoping that they will do whatever it is that will be all that we know about the moon from them. So Michael Collins, when I told him about the pictures of and I gave him a map and targets assigned to them north of from window number one north of the spacecraft. So you can take this and south of the spacecraft to look at this and this and that. And he said, just tell me what pictures you want, and they'll get you all the goddamn pictures you want. Just put them on a map and let me know which one. And he himself, while on the lunar orbit living, he thought, my God, all of this training was great because I now know where in the hell am I pointing that camera and what for. So he himself became enthusiastic about that, actually. And whatever we get from there, from Apollo 11, will help us in all of the following Apollo missions. So it is damn important for them to do. And that became very clear also that the astronauts figured out exactly what is the importance of their observations. And Neil Armstrong did something that we were forever appreciative of what he did. After he finished the job, and they were all going back home to the spacecraft because they're going to lift over in 1 hour. And Buzz Aldrin had already come in and they landed and moved into the spacecraft. And Neil Armstrong had a camera and was going towards the spacecraft to go up. But he noticed a crater that was very clear to what we talked about it for many hours with him, about the fact that we need not a very large crater, a crater that will be only 9 or 10 feet in diameter. And because if we get something, we need to know the thickness of the lunar soil, which we call regolith. The regolith was the soil on the moon, so we wanted to know the thickness of that before we hit solid rock. And he said, and how you figure that out? He said, well, if we go to a crater that's the size of such and such, then you would see that the bottom of the crater is solid rock, and then so we know what the thickness of the soil of the moon, because we know that the thickness of the soil is at least 1, maybe 3, maybe even 5, 6 meters because of the bombardment like that. So he, instead of going to the spacecraft and coming up, he headed towards that camera, very far from where we ran to it because of the time, ran to it, stood at the edge of it, took the picture, turned around and ran back down to the top. He knew that that would tell us the thickness of the lunar soil, and it didn't tell us the thickness of the lunar soil at 3 meters.
Were there any sites that Apollo didn't visit?
The one that we were all sad that we could not get to is a sample of the southern highlands of the moon. The whole block of the south part of the moon, as if it is a huge Africa kind of, in the southern part of the moon, but it is much larger, like 5 times bigger than covering the 5 times the area of Africa, if you think about it on the moon. So the southern highlands were a very large place that is very different from the places we sampled. And we wanted to sample from that place because it's what we thought that compositionally would be different. Actually, it turned out to be a bit different, not as much as we thought it might be, but it was different. So that's the only place where we could have gone, but we did not because it's rough and it is too far to the south and all kinds of other things. We did not have radar data about it to assure safe approach to it. So there were all kinds of reasons that we could not get there, but that's the only place that we think geologically would have gotten us something different from all the places we did get to.
Science Digest Show, the mystifying science.